I'd call this
Morning.
meeting to order. We'd like to welcome everybody out to the May 29th, 2025 Madison County School Board meeting. At this time, Mr. Mark Ackerman is going to bring up a young man just for our prayer. If you would, Mr. Ackerman, come on up.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Frankie, for having us here. Called me, was it last night or night before?
Night before.
Not before.
Mr. Chair,
And
call him that late, Mr. Chair.
Somebody
he just knows me too
canceled.
good. And no, it was all good, but I did panic a little bit because I wanted a senior to come, and today's the last day for seniors, and I was like, well, so one of our most faithful students in the school came for us. So I have Jackson Croft here with me today. He's graduating. He'll be attending North Florida next year. He's one of those handful of students that was around all the time at James Madison because he didn't get into the dual enrollment thing. And y'all are kind of, probably a lot of you like me about dual enrollment. It's a double-edged sword. You miss out on the high school experience a lot when you're so involved with dual enrollment, but we also want to support that program and support these kids getting really a free education through dual enrollment. But Jackson's a special young man. He's originally from Kissimmee and said it was way too busy in Kissimmee for his family. So he moved up here when he was about 10, went to the Creative Arts Academy and then transferred to James Madison. But just a fantastic young man, and I'm proud to have him here with me today. So he's going to have your prayer for you this morning.
So, stand please.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day, and I thank you for all the school board and the staff, and all the teachers. Lord, I thank you for letting us get through another school year. Lord, I pray that the next school year, I pray that you be with everyone as there's changes coming, as all schools are closing and combining into one. Lord, I pray that you would watch over us all and bless us. And Lord, let us to trust you, and I know you'll guide us through the way. Lord, I thank you, and I praise you, Lord, and I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You got it.
Okay, there are going to be some amendments to the agenda. We're pulling 5.3, the Belfour invoice approval. We're pulling field trips, and we're pulling the waypoint agreement. 5.8, 5.6, and 5.3.
The Belfour, the Synergy Group is reviewing the invoices, but because we had already published it, that's the reason we need to go ahead and pull it. There were no field trips, and then the Waypoint agreement, I meet with Waypoint staff this afternoon at 2 p.m. By the time I receive the draft and then trying to get them scheduled, I'm not able to schedule them and meet with them until this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Have a motion to adopt the agenda from Ms. Knight, a second from Ms. Hagan. Is there any discussion on the agenda? If not, all in favor? 5-0. Okay, we're going to go down to the any public comment? No public comment. The consent agenda is 4.1 minutes, 4.2 a MOU with Boys and Girls Club, 4.3 Ramsey Education, 4.4 expenditure report, and 4.5 fundraiser request. Do I have a motion to
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
have a motion by Ms. Hagan and a second by Ms. Thompson to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion?
I've got a few concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's see. The first thing, the Ramsey Education. I just want a little bit more information on it. That's at the Madison County High School. Will this be a class at the high school?
So with this is what they put they use for their class. This is the licenses they use.
Okay, so that's going to be, okay, good. Okay, jumping down to the expenditure report, which of course, school board members are, we have to overlook our finances. Okay, Legal Shield, I've discovered it's an online attorney, and we've got some invoices going to them. And what was that?
I'll have to check on what Legal Shield is, but I believe that's where we provide legal services for staff, but I will verify the Legal Shield.
Okay. Hate and Landau is another attorney in Miami. A check went to him. It's
What was the name again?
Hate, H-A-Y-T, Hate and Landau, an attorney from Miami.
Can I believe what that is there was a garnishment, and so when an employee has a judgment against them, the judgment creditor can, and it gets what's called a writ of garnishment, and they send it to the employer. The employer has to send a portion of the paycheck, and I believe that's where we send a portion of that employee's paycheck.
Okay, it did say...
And you're required to do that under Florida law. We don't have a choice.
Right, okay, well, it did say debt collection. Okay.
Right.
All right, the credit cards, I'm a little concerned about it. Not saying anything is being done illegal. I still feel as though we need a little bit more information on where those credit cards are being used and by whom they're being used. I brought this up before. In other words, this is money that's going out, but, I'm wondering what's it for? So if you could just,
And if you'll recall our regions, it's a P card. It's not a credit card. So it is used to pay registrations. So our registrations for conferences. We'll do the PO here, but we turn around and have to use the P card. So it's not a credit card, it's our P card. And we have to put the amount of money on that P card.
And so it can only be used for that specific purpose?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay.
So they have a zero balance. There's no money on that until they put the money on the
So
card.
they can't use the credit card randomly for this,
No,
that,
ma'am.
and everything else? Okay, all right.
That's my understanding, there's only 2 cards that actually have a limit.
Okay,
And that's it. Everyone else, they're blank until they transfer the money on.
okay.
So
Now-
if you come and pick up your card
Right.
to travel, they have to put the money on there
Okay.
prior to.
Well, I wanted to make that clear for
Yes,
everyone. Okay. All right, I see our consultants are being paid. Now, what about our finance officer? Is he being paid?
He's a vendor until June 30th.
He's a vendor.
He's just a 90-day contract.
So that's not a consultant, that's a...
Well, like a consultant, but yes.
Okay, but I
So,
don't see any checks going to him.
if it's not on this one, he should have one.
Because I'm saying, if he's an employee, we wouldn't see any money
He would
here.
not, he's not, he will be on this. He just may not be on this particular run.
Okay.
on the date.
Because I haven't seen him get any money. And
He's
I'm thinking
only-
maybe he's a volunteer.
No. So he has only submitted 2 invoices.
Okay.
So-
Okay, so he is getting paid? then?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, very good. I think that's all I had for that. Thank
Okay.
you for the information. And if you'll get the information back to me too, please. Okay.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. So all in favor? 5-0. Okay, now we're going to drop down to items for individual consideration. 5.1 RFP Construction Management Services, Mr. Rutherford and Mr. Gann.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I believe that you had April 30th, if I remember right, April 30th was a submission date for our CM Services agreement, which has no term or dollars attached to it. It is a construction management at-risk contract that would allow you to engage to corrections of about 12 or 15 items at Central School, which was grading, interior floor finishes, some control joints, redoing all control joints and sealing brick block exteriors.
as it's 24 or 5 years old. So you would replace those. The funds for that project, I believe, would be an allocated fund from money from either through DOE, FDEM, and that. I don't think that's been completely nailed down yet. So therefore, I think that the recommendation from the committee that met on these submissions, and you received from Allstate Construction. Allstate Construction was the CM contractor that was recommended. So you would move to accept the CM services agreement, but there would be no terms, meaning no value. It was advertised at an approximated value of $2.5 million for the scope of work that was on this list. You may not have that kind of money. You may not want to spend that money, so that's fine. You just had to have a value placed on it. So I think you would recommend the contract Exhibit A that would attach to that 121 CMC contract would have terms and time and value. That is yet to be placed to y'all for approval for the exact specific scope, pending award or approval from an agency to you for that scope. Does that make sense? That allows you to move quickly with that instead of having to go back and spend another 30 days doing it and repeating that process. Questions?
Yeah. So we're awarding the contract to the construction manager, to Allstate, whatever it is, but we're not executing a contract until we get those terms in place?
So you would execute the 121 CMC,
Okay.
which is a base contract value. In 4.1 and 5.9, I believe, is in that section, you would stipulate by Exhibit A. So on that contract, it has an Exhibit A that would attach for drawing scope,
Sure.
for time, and for dollars. You don't have that available at this point because I don't think we want to commit funds to that because you're unknown of what they are. If y'all tell me, yes, we want to go ahead and let's do it, that's fine. But I would say, be sure you have your money set for that scope. Now, we can estimate that services and it wouldn't be any money.
Yeah, I don't guess I'm getting it yet.
Okay.
We're going to execute a contract, but we're not going to have all the material terms of the contract worked out and set out in the contract?
You haven't bid it yet. Like you don't have a bid value. You don't have a scope that says, oh, the caulking ceiling is $10,000.
Okay.
So you have to go to sub-market bids to bid all that work and that scope to determine what those numbers are. And the CM 121, he's at risk. So there's no, like you're not awarding him a dollar figure for doing it. And I'm simply saying, typically you would put a pre-construction cost value in there for doing that. I'm saying, no, you're at risk like everybody else is. If they don't have the funds and it doesn't work, you don't get anything out of it, period. So that's just like a little bit of a hard ball. That's what that is. That's just the way it is. Take it or leave it. And that's why there's no dollar figures attached. It's not a GMP. The GMP would be Exhibit A that would be attached to that document.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I guess, the construction management part of it, though, you're saying that that as the construction manager, he's going to manage the project. We don't have the dollar figure yet for the project. Is that the point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Because I don't think that I would commit to saying X amount of money for that scope when you're not known of how much you're going to receive for that scope. Yeah. And the other thing with that is timing. So everybody in America in the summer does interior school work and stuff. There's no way carpet, tile, anything internally in a school at this point could be done and completed. It's not possible. I mean, you can't buy it. It's not there. Yeah.
So we're awarding the contract.
You're awarding a base
So that
contract.
we'll have someone in place.
Yes, ma'am.
And then that will eliminate time for us to re-advertise those 30 days, then for us to come right back and whatever. So we've got that in place.
Yes, ma'am.
The contract.
Shovel ready to proceed.
Exactly.
Which I think was
I thought
one.
we discussed this last week.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
Let me ask you about the 2.5 million. Is that how much the cost to repair everything would be? It's just an estimate, I'm sure.
Yes, so
Yeah.
what I did was I took off all the control joints around the entire perimeter of that building. And then all the joints on the outside, the grading, and you have to affix a number to a advertisement for what an anticipated budgetary amount might be. So that's where that came from. It may be less, it may be more, depending on how you modify scope. In other words, you could take some of that work away and drop it, but then you may find out, oh, we need to try to pick this up. And if partners approve and fund that money for hurricane mitigation money, or whatever it may be, then you could add to it. But if it's not noted, then it puts me in a problem of saying, oh, this project had no value. So then someone could say, well, you didn't tell us how much budget was there. That's why it's legal to make sure that someone can't say that we weren't notified of the value of a potential project. So that's its term value.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if you will recall, we were having to do this to meet one of our state board requirements because of moving the children, closing the Greenville school, and then moving those children. That was one of the concerns from one of the state board members, and moving these children to the central school. And because of the past flooding issues with the central school from our prior hurricanes, so to try to prioritize and make sure we did not experience the flooding again. So that's the reason we're having to do this.
Well, I understand.
I do too. I was on the committee when they was in there, and it was basically said, this is to get them ready to go,
Right,
contingent on getting the money.
that's correct.
And, once you get the money, then the main, I think we talked about in the thing, that the main thing we got to get done is that, the grading. That's gonna be the number one thing. I believe that's what Tim said.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the RFP Construction Management Services.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Knight and a second by Ms. Hagan to accept the RFP Construction Management Services. Is there any more discussion on this? If not, all in favor? 5-0. Okay, 5.2, the 5-year plant survey. Mr. Ginn?
Good morning.
Good morning.
What I'm bringing forward to you today is every 5 years we're required to do a plant survey. It's where DOE comes in and they look at our school and make sure that we've got everything required. And also they add into this a wish list and things we would like to do that they approve for us to do them, where we won't have to go back and have spot surveys done later on. So this is the 5-year plant survey for this year. It has in it the recommendations for closing the 3 outlying schools, and they also done studies on the high school and central to make sure we have adequate room for the incoming students to be included into those facilities. Any questions?
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the 5-year plant survey?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the 5-year plant survey plan.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Hagan and a second by Ms. Gibson to approve the 5-year plant survey. Any discussion on it? If not, all in favor? 5-0. And now, let's see, that's it?
5.4.
5.4, personnel changes, Dr. Pickle.
So we do have a supplemental pay. We have several items that are attached, and then one that is at your desk that was changing as of this morning even, which is the reason for the tardiness in having this one uploaded online. I had it ready for Friday and then received a message from the principal last night. So the transfer request that that was attached was going to be changed, so I was waiting on that. So I did remove it, and we'll place it on the next meeting. So that is at your table. So there are 3 resignations, 2 retirements, several reassignments, and then 1 recommendation for the high school for the coming year. Then there's a supplemental pay, and then request for overtime hours for our transportation. And hopefully this will be the last request for this as far as our overtime hours. So, and then summer school recommendation for bus drivers. So I do request your approval.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel changes?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the personnel changes.
I second.
Have a motion by Ms. Hagan and a second by Ms. Knight to approve the personnel changes. Any discussion on the personnel changes?
I don't see any assistance for Central.
We have a list, and that will actually come about after the staffing plan today. They have all been interviewed, yes.
So that would be how many assistant principals we are going to leave?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
They've already been all interviewed.
okay.
We've had an outside panel come in for that.
Okay, any more discussion? If not, all in favor of the personnel changes? 5-0. Okay, let's see, staff travel.
You see lots of staff travel, so it's coming that time of year. I do not have to attend the state board meeting again until August, so I do not have to go to Miami for that. However, I still have to go for the Commissioner Summit. Then there's the summer literacy for our coaches for both schools, and then their literacy reading staff. There's Avid summer training for both schools, so we have those staff on here. And then I do have the FADS FSBA conference for us, for our board leadership.
How many of us are going?
All of us are attending except Miss Carol. Did you change?
I won't be able to.
Okay. Yes, I noticed that we had you originally booked.
Yes.
But then I
Thank
noticed
you.
your name was removed, so. Then there's the school safety summit, and then the Florida Model Annual Refresher that both Rod and Patrick have to attend those last 2. So I do recommend your approval of our travel.
Hey, do I have a motion for the staff travel?
I move to approve the staff travel.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Thompson and a second by Ms. Knight to approve the staff travel. Is there any discussion on the staff travel? If not, all in favor of the staff travel? 5-0.
And there were no
All
field
right.
trips.
So 5.7, the NFCD amendment.
So the North Florida Child Development Center has advised me they will not be able to offer VPK this summer, so we need to amend the current agreement, and we will not be offering VPK services this summer. They will also be amending their contract coming forward for the coming year due to funding, and reducing their number of allocations.
Now let me get this straight. That is the only thing, the summer school, right now that we're discussing to amend that contract, nothing else.
That's it.
Okay?
That's it.
I'm just getting, I understand, but I'm just getting clarification, because they will be back.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes. She's already advised me they need to reduce the number, and then just this summer, they cannot offer summer school. That they cannot offer it. So I just need to accept their amendment to their contract for the summer.
Okay? Do I have a motion? for-
I'm getting ahead of you. I was gonna say, I moved to approve the amendment to the North Florida Child Development.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Thompson and a second by Ms. Hagan to approve the amendment, the NFCD amendment. Any more discussion on that? If not, all in favor of it? 5-0. All right, 5.9, staffing plan update.
So it posted on the website, and I met with each of you and went over some of the staffing updates. Most of it was trying to actually align the positions with the way our union contract reads, like adding clerk or receptionist, clerk, things like that, like as I've met with you. There was a half a position that was not accounted for, so I did add that in. There was some discussion, and we've talked about it. I've changed the principals, APs versus, and deans at Central School, where we had them before from at 4. And so there's been some discussion going back and forth, going down to guaranteed 2, and then with the additional of a third. So I really want to hear from each of you if you're okay with that this first year, or if we want to stick to the way it is in the plan, having 2 with the possibility of a third if they go up over roughly the 800. Or would you want to stay with the 4 as we previously discussed, and having the deans go back to 2 deans and not having 3 deans versus 3 APs? So I am open this consolidation year. I know everybody's a little concerned during this consolidation year.
So how do I need to work this now? I mean, do we need to?
Well, let's start with Ms. Carroll, I guess.
Okay, all right.
Well, I don't need to be
I guess
first,
we,
but,
I guess we
okay.
need a motion,
Yeah, that's what I
and a
was asking.
second first, and then we can discuss.
Okay.
Do I have a motion for the staffing plan?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the staffing plan as presented to each one of us individually.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion by Ms. Hagan and a second by Ms. Knight for the staffing plan as it was presented to us. Any discussion?
Okay, I'll be first. All right, in the past, I know assistant principals were 11 months. Okay, what they did was rotate, though, like we'll do, this one we'll do 2 weeks. In other words, there was always assistant principals on the scene. Okay. All right, did you say you were going to 12 months for them, for this
So-
year? Is that what you,
So at some point, they went, so Ms. Gibson, if you'll recall, when we were on the board together, and then when I moved to superintendent, they were 11 months. They always requested extra hours. At some point, they moved to 12 months.
right?
I would have to go back and find out when that
Okay.
happened.
But we
Yeah,
discussed
knew that it was-
previously.
Yeah, okay.
But we moved and
Right.
stated they would remain 12 months this
Okay.
year,
This year.
That's-
and then they would go back to 11 months.
Okay.
Because
I-
of consolidation.
Correct.
We're good there, that's good.
But I
Okay,
did
but-
leave it as 11 months in the staffing plan, so it would not be forgotten. And I
Okay.
did make the note on there that 12 months
Right.
due
And-
to consolidation.
And I'm sure they're needed for the 12 months, I'm not saying that. But if originally, one of them was listed as 12 months and the others 11 months, and I want us to be consistent. In other words, if they're 11, they're 11. If they're 12, they're 12. So I don't want this one to be 12 and that one to be 11. So that's clear. Okay, good. And now, did you want our input about how many? Is that what you said, or?
So,
Okay.
remember the one we approved a month ago?
Yeah,
They were all going to be, we had 3 automatically, and if they went up, they would get a 4th.
that's,
So, knowing we have a micro school starting, And I have 2 budget allocations separate. We had to do a budget exercise. And I've gone ahead and prepared. I've actually withheld 100 FTE. And, I mean, we're looking at kind of being in the red anyways.
Right.
FRS is
Right.
going up. You know, we're sitting here, the House and Senate can't
Yeah.
agree.
I know,
So,
that's
and not
what-
having a budget.
Yeah, that's the unknown. We're
That's the
facing
unknown.
the unknown.
That's the unknown
And
we're
I'm going
holding
to go
off.
back to that State Board of Education meeting, which I listened to at least 3 times, took notes, and the word urgency was used a good 4 times. And they are very concerned about the situation. Okay, we won't go into all the nitty-gritty right now.
Yes.
But yeah, when we have, well, let's put it this way, the least number of employees getting paid as assistant, the money goes toward the employees as far as raises go.
Correct.
So I have to keep that in mind, you know. It's nice to have a bunch of people floating around, but you got to remember our employees deserve to be paid what we can give them. Another thing is the resource officers. I'm going to assume that those 3 community school resource officers are going to be gone. That's a lot of money right there.
I have not received a
Or we haven't-
updated contract
Okay, we
yet
haven't
from the
gotten that
Sheriff's
far yet.
Department.
Uh-huh, yeah, but that would
So-
be a savings for us right there. Okay, that's my say.
So
That's my 2 cents.
And as I explained to each of you, I have cut on the clerical staff. I even cut more clerical out of this revised one. So that's where I am cutting because we need our instructional and then our support staff that help our instructional. So I wanted to address the APs and the deans because they're also helping those instructional.
So right now, we're at 3 assistants and 3 deans.
Correct,
And
On this.
on this.
But now, when we voted before,
No, I know what we did before. Yeah.
No,
you know
a month
me.
ago.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
4 and 2.
Yeah, yeah. I realize that.
there wasn't 3 deans either, it was 2.
Yes, well,
So, are you done, Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
I don't want to interrupt you.
no, I'm done.
I would like for this coming school year, I feel like we need to really pour as much as we can into making sure we have the resources for our kids, for our staff, as far as, like, even with the resource officers, I think we need all hands on deck. This is gonna be a year of transition. We don't have time and we can't afford to mess this up. And so I would like to go more on the high end this year if we can afford to do that for multiple reasons. I know we've got to save money, but I'm just looking at it from, there's going to be a lot of changes for our staff, there's going to be a lot of changes for our kids, and I want to ensure their safety as far as the resource officers go. I know that wasn't even really part of the discussion, but since it got brought up, I would be more comfortable having these extra APs and having some really strong deans to handle discipline and those types of things. That's just my opinion. I know it's going to be a big summer as far as transition with scheduling and different things to make sure that this all goes as smoothly as possible. So I prefer if we could do 4 APs and 2 deans, just for this coming school year and reevaluate it next year and see how things look. Because we can't really plan and know how many kids we're going to have yet. And so I would rather be prepared for the possibility of having more. And then if we don't, then we can reevaluate for the upcoming school year. That's just my thoughts.
And see, I'm on the other end of the spectrum. We know that we're going to need these assistant principals. And I'm saying 4 is a bit too much right here. We can always have it and we can always add. And if we need that 4th person, we can add that 4th person. And we don't want to give anybody hope and then have to change all these things. We do not know about our enrollment. We don't know where those students from Greenville, Pinetta, are going. I've heard rumors that we won't be getting as many as we thought that we would be getting. So, to be...
Well, and I agree on both spectrums. You know, I feel like we need to put our best foot forward, but we need to, you know, be somewhere in the middle. It's a lot easier to add an employee if the enrollment increases than it is to, you know, terminate somebody who's on a contract. So I do feel like, you know, the transition as far as the APs is concerned, you know, is fine, because again, we can always add that AP after we know where our enrollment is. But I do feel like, you know, having that additional dean could be a game changer as far as, you know, our setup moving forward into the consolidation. So, you know, I would like to be somewhere in the middle, you know, so that way, like I said, we are putting our best foot forward based on what our enrollment is right now, and then give ourselves the window of opportunity to be able to increase as the student enrollment increases. Because I feel like if we do this right, and we put our best foot forward and we pour into these kids and these employees the way that we plan to, you know, the enrollment is going to take care of itself down the road.
Are you done? I guess for me, I'm more lend to let's be proactive rather than reactive and be prepared for the possibility of having these kids, rather than trying to hire somebody in the middle of the school year. But that's just my thoughts, especially like when we're talking about, you know, the resource officers. We can't go back after something has happened and say, oh, we should have had a few more.
The resource officers aren't even on the table
I
right
know,
now.
but I'm just
So
saying,
we are talking
for
about,
instance.
you know, the setup with the APs and the deans. I mean, again, we have to put our best foot forward, but based on our enrollment is right now, you know, I think the addition of a dean puts our best foot forward until the enrollment increases.
So what are you thinking, 3 and 3, or?
I'd like to remind the board that there was 1,700 students when Central opened up, with one principal, 2 to 3 assistants, I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3. But all this discussion about we need resource officers, we need more people, that sends a message, we've got a problem. So I think if you've got good people in place that can control the school, keep the school under control, the teachers, it takes a lot of people to do it, not just one person. Then it can be done. But as far as piling all this, and remember, we're spending money that we want to use on our employees. So when we say let's have, and I've done quite a bit of checking on different school systems, and they have many students. 4 assistants is absolutely unheard of. But, I mean, it's nice to have. We can't, hey, 4 or 5, but we've got to keep our eye on the whole situation.
Well, again, I know we're not talking about resource officers, but, and I agree with you, I was one of those students the first year the school was open, but I also realized we were living in a very different time than we are now. And student and staff safety is top priority for me. And so, it's not, to me, it's not so much that we have a problem, it's that we want to prevent a problem. And we want to ensure that all of our students are safe. And so I know, again, we keep going back into the SROs, and that's not even what we're talking about. But just for me, I prefer to be proactive rather than reactive.
And the first 2 weeks, we should know our enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
So if we need to add one,
Right.
that does not disrupt anything. It's not going to be in the middle of the school term. The first 2 weeks of school, we should know our enrollment.
My thing on it all is this first year, we got to get it right. We don't have no room for error. We got to get it right. Now, I would like to see maybe the numbers changed a little bit. From 600 to 900 instead of 600 to 800. You got, and then but I would think, if we got 900, then we probably need 3 principals. But and then change, and then get an extra one if we got 1,009, whatever, ever how that works out.
901.
You know what I'm talking about? Increase, cause, I mean, they got 800 out there now. They ain't going nowhere. The ones out there now.
Yeah, there's over
I don't know how many we gonna get from them other places. They'll start out, maybe not as many, but they're gonna come.
Well,
Them folks, they gonna keep them on.
I was gonna say, I just left the league and I had quite a few conversations with parents that originally said they had no plans to send their children to Central, but now the ones I spoke to is, we're gonna give it a try. And that's not speaking for everybody, but there are a lot more people that I think are open-minded and are at least going to give it a try. And so I don't want us to be scrambling if these students do show up.
Point of order, take the vote, please, on the staffing plan. All of us have spoken.
I really don't even know what it is yet. What is it? I mean, well, I know what it
3 and 3
was.
is what it is.
Well, you
So-
got a written plan.
As,
I know,
as
but this plan
presented.
has 11 months and we're not gonna do that.
No.
My motion was to accept the staffing plan.
As
As
That
presented.
had been presented,
As-
and we got a second, and it has been discussed. So then that's when we take the vote on accepting the staffing plan update. And then if we need to add something else or whatever, fine, but we've heard how each of us feel.
Okay.
But it also says that APs, for this consolidation year, APs are 12 months.
So that was recommended in the plan already.
Okay.
For this first year.
For the first year.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, second, more discussion. All right, all in favor of the staffing plan? All opposed? 3-2. With Ms. Thompson and me opposed. Okay, here we go.
Superintendent items.
Superintendent items.
Several different things. So during our last meeting, asked about transportation. So I can tell you for ag, I'm going to start there. So although I have it listed softball, baseball, and ag, so looking at the ag, I can tell you back for 2025, there was no revenue received during down home days. For 2024, there was revenues received of $1,023 during down home days. Now, for baseball, now I'll go kind of more in, I guess I'm going backwards. So baseball transportation, what they've already paid versus what is yet to be billed. They have already paid $393.20. Yet to be billed is $415.80 for a total of $819. However, they also had to pay Annette Bus Lines $2,700 because they had to go to Jacksonville for 2 trips. So that's baseball. Softball, they have already paid $1,426.17. Yet to be billed is $990.62 for a total of $2,416.79. So that's for this year. So those are our transportation costs for this year. And then the loss of revenue for ag. Oh, and I think I misspoke. It was 4 of 23, and it was 1,081. And then there was no revenue showing that we could find for this year. Now, there's a couple of other things, so I'm not sure how you want to handle that, but that's that information you had asked for. There's a couple things I need to know how I need to proceed with. There have been unapproved overtime payments in the past. And so we're catching a lot of this now as we're going through. So I need to know from this board how you want, because as we catch something and we catch the overtime, it's being brought to the board. So I need to know how you want to handle when we catch overtime. And before I'll pay it, I'll make it come for approval before the board. So we have caught some, so I need to know how the board wants to handle
Let me ask this
any
question.
unapproved.
That overtime has already been done,
It's already been paid.
and now you want us to decide how we want to handle that.
As I continue to catch some of these, so especially when an employee should leave or they transfer somewhere else, and then we have to start calculating terminal pay. So, yes,
Okay, if
ma'am.
we don't pay these people overtime, when we have a catastrophe, they're not going to be working.
Well,
So
they've
they
already
deserve-
paid it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've
so-
already paid
But I
it.
mean, I think it would be up to the superintendent to decide, if they deserve overtime or, I mean, it's not going to be in the thousands of dollars, I wouldn't think, So, in my opinion, the superintendent should, look at it and,
So some have already received it, prior, not even approved. As we're catching it now, that's when we're bringing it to the board.
okay, and I thought during a catastrophe, the superintendent's going to make some decisions. In other words, they got to.
That's the only time overtime is supposed to be.
Yes, they're going to make some decisions because it's got to be done and we got to do it right now. And we're not going to be waiting for a school board meeting to do
So
it.
to clarify, I think you're saying that there's some
This
that is
is-
not catastrophe related.
This is not catastrophe
In case
related
of
whatsoever.
emergency.
Okay, well, I was talking about emergency, yeah.
May I ask a
Yeah.
question? Was this overtime actually worked by these employees? Is it verified that they worked these overtime hours?
Per logging coming into the system and cameras, no.
So there's a possibility that overtime was being paid and not being worked.
Correct.
Okay.
So in the possibility of the future, that we need emergency overtime, the superintendent approves it right then, doesn't have to bring it to the board. But any other overtime should be presented to the board before
Correct.
that overtime is worked.
That's what she said.
And may I ask, do you have an approximate amount as far as how much overtime and the payment for said overtime is for some of this?
One in particular is over 5,000.
Okay.
I'm just needing to kind of know, especially when it starts to come and impact now terminal pay.
Well, I don't think we can do anything, this is in the past now we're talking about,
It is.
We weren't, okay. But I think going forward, that's what we have to be concerned with.
That's what I'm needing to
I mean, I'm
know,
not gonna
because
dig up dirt
I
on
bring it
everybody
all
that
to
did-
you.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I think we all agree that it has to come to board for approval in order to be paid. So if it doesn't come to the board for approval moving forward, it doesn't get paid.
That's exactly.
Correct, okay.
We're moving forward with that.
That's the reason you got some more again today for approval.
We can't change the past, but definitely moving forward.
That's the reason you got some more.
Thank you.
Okay, so next, as we've been checking salaries, there's incorrect salary amounts. We are bringing those that are not on the correct salary schedule. For instance, called an employee that is making, an instructional employee that's only making 40,000. And then another one or two, they are listed as 10-month and should be an 11-month employee, so their pay is incorrect. So based on the salary schedule, trying to move those employees to the correct salary schedule, have also caught a couple that, I'll be honest, I just don't know how they're paid. I can't find their pay on the salary schedule whatsoever. Have gone ahead and informed them based on the union contract and the salary schedule, what their salary would be moving forward. However, I would at least, and after speaking to Attorney Reeves, would like to just go ahead and have the board's approval to not disrupt their pay for now, but correct it as we move forward July 1.
But listen, if some of these people being underpaid, they need to be brought up to.
Oh, yes, oh, no, that
Overpaid, then that's when.
That I am
when the contract
fixing.
starts again.
Oh, no, I do not want troubles with the union or anything, and I have tried to speak to each individual and let them know. And so those will get corrected, and so I've already spoke to those individuals.
And if I can chime in, the school board has already approved the salary schedule, already approved the contract, so the raising it up, they really don't need any further action from the board to raise up people being underpaid. That happens immediately because y'all have already done it. But now that the superintendent knows that some people are being overpaid, to basically keep overpaying them through the rest of this year, the school board needs to approve that. And so that's why it's being brought to you.
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I move to correct the salaries. How would I say that? You said we don't need to vote on the ones that are being underpaid.
I would say that the employees that are being overpaid, to correct the overpayment effective the first day of the next school year.
Okay.
Wait, are we voting on this right now?
The overpayments.
Because it wasn't on the agenda.
No, it's under the superintendent items.
But
Well, you could certainly amend the agenda
We
at this
could,
point to
yeah.
add it as an action item. It's probably
Okay.
the best thing. So maybe your first motion could be to amend the agenda to consider the item.
I would move to amend the agenda to consider superintendent item about overpayment salaries.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
So a motion by Ms. Thompson and a second by Ms. Knight to amend the agenda to this
5.10.
5.10, superintendent item of overpayment to staff. Any discussion? Oh, got it. I said that. Did I say we made the motion? I did. I'm all messed up now. Any discussion on this? More discussion?
Well, right now, we're just amending the agenda.
Amending the agenda.
All right. All in favor? 5-0. All right. Let's go with 5.10.
Now,
And so I think the motion you're wanting is to continue any overpayments through the rest of this year, returning everyone to the correct payment beginning the first day of the next school year.
Okay. I move to continue any overpayment for the remainder of this school year and to amend their pay at the beginning of the next contract for the next school year.
Okay, have a motion.
I second.
Have a motion by Ms. Thompson and a second by Ms. Knight to continue the overpayment of staff for the remainder of this year, but correct it for the next school year,
Which begins July 1.
which begins on July 1st. Now, is there any discussion?
Well, I just want to clarify that in that July 1, that we are still following policy that says overpayment has to be board approved. We're not just going to let people submit overpayment until July 1 and rack up the dollars.
no.
Okay.
And how many employees does this involve?
I can get you a list of
Okay, I'd
them.
like to have a list.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've actually been going every employee one by one and looking at them. Which comes to my last, the
We need to
FEMA.
vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, any more discussion? Not all approved? 5-0.
Which brings me now to my last item, the FEMA reimbursement payments. I did want to ask, do you want a spreadsheet presented monthly? I just wanted to know how you wanted that information.
I think so.
Monthly, okay.
I want mine hourly.
Who you gonna pay to give it to you? I Somebody fixing to make some money.
I will get that information for you. We have started a spreadsheet, and then we'll have that. And then lastly, you do have this information, and I will get the other requested information for you regarding this parent request. We have quite a full week this week. We have some double bookings tonight still, and the double booking stuff is very aggravating, so we will have a district calendar.
That's what I would like to see.
Yes, trying to keep up, and it's like, where am I going here and there? So the adult ed graduation Friday night was great. We had 10 little graduates from the last 5 years, and so they were very excited. Have overcome a lot to get where they were. So it was a special moment for those young individuals, and hope that they will continue. And we have events tomorrow night, packed Thursday night, and then Friday night. So, and then all the awards and graduations every morning this week. So that's all I have at the moment.
Okay, Mr. Reeves,
No, sir, not unless you have questions of me.
Ms. Gibson.
I'd like to thank you for that master list, because I don't like to miss anything, but sometimes I have to, that's it. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the American Legion Post 224 in Cherry Lake, Florida, for what they do. This coming Friday morning at 8 o'clock, the flags will be placed around the courthouse. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the proceeds from the flags benefit our schools. Whenever a flag is needed, and they've done quite a bit of it, at the different schools, I know Central Lee, when they, especially the outdoor flags, they take a beating, but the Legion will replace the flags. I just happen to have a flag with me today, and these flags are given to our students. I go into the classrooms, all 5 elementary schools, into various classes, and do a little lesson on the flag, and this is where it comes from. The Legion supplies the flags. Okay. Madison County High School had a wonderful spring concert at NFC, and the only word I can describe is that it was fabulous. I'd like to thank our new band director, Mr. Ethan Draus, on his first concert. It was very good, and Mr. Artiga came back to acknowledge the seniors, so that was wonderful. I'd like to congratulate the Madison County High School Cowgirls on their wonderful season. I look forward to the next fantastic season. The Beta Club program, they honored all the scholars, and I would like to thank Miss Griffin for her work. That was her last. She will be retiring in December, and she'll be surely missed. I enjoyed serving the seniors at the senior walk at this year, and I want to thank all those people who sponsored and contributed to this activity. I'd like to also thank Becky Robinson from Becky's Dance Studio. She has been in the business. This was her 49th year. And the only way I can describe the recital, which my granddaughter was in it, is absolutely fabulous. And I'd like to thank Mr. Isaac Goyette for his part in it. He has a big part in that and does a fantastic job. And Becky, of course, recognized you during that. And but she teaches our students. So this is a wonderful outlet for many of our students, and it's just fabulous. I'd like to thank everyone who's had a part in the school system this year. It takes everybody, and everyone has an important job. We couldn't do it without all of you. We couldn't do it without all of you, and we appreciate you. And I think that is what I had to say. Thank you.
As usual, I would like to thank everybody for everything that you've done. Thank you.
And I'd like to just echo on a lot of what Ms. Gibson has already said. I would like to also thank Mr. Ackerman for bringing our student for prayer this evening. And I just want to say again how proud I am of our Cowgirls softball team for making history. We've looked back and we can't find a season any better than what the Cowgirls record was this past year. And, we're only losing a handful of seniors, so really want you girls to come back at it again next year. And I just want to say that congratulations to all of our retirees. And there's a couple of resignations on there that hurts my heart, but I wish you all, the best of luck in your future endeavors.
I would just like to say thank you to all of our staff for a wonderful school year. I know there's a lot of transitions happening, but I'm excited about them. And I think that it's going to be wonderful for our children. I would also like to say I hope you all have a wonderful summer. You're near the end.
I just gonna say ditto to everybody because I need to go. But thanks for everything. I do want to say I'm sorry that I may not can be at some of those awards days during the daytime. My elderly mother-in-law stays with us and her caregiver is sick, so I'll be okay. So anyway, if I'm not there, don't trash me too much. I appreciate it. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.